You who lived through that entire era, think of what the world has become today. People's lives are polluted with demon power. We need God, folks. If you think you can make your way through this world and say, well, I'm just neutral, I don't serve either one. I told you this before, but years ago when I was a student in college and we were trying to witness on the streets in Brooklyn a little bit, I actually had a man tell me that. I was trying to say, you need to serve God. It's a danger, this, whatever I was saying. He says, well, I don't serve either God or the devil. Yeah, right. There's no other alternative. If your life is not given to God, I mean from your heart, given to Him, so that He has your life, He has the right to make you into the image of Christ and to prepare you for eternity. If you're not occupying that place, you are in sin's prison, and you don't know it. You're blind. Satan will dangle the things of the world. He'll drive you this way and he'll drive you that way, but you won't know what's coming, whether you're coming or going. You won't understand where thoughts come from. God help us as Christians, because the devil talks to us too. We're going to have to learn to recognize wisdom that comes from the devil. His wisdom causes strife and trouble and all kinds of stuff. There's a wisdom that God gives that is peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated. It brings peace to our hearts. God, give us the ability to recognize the voices that talk in our minds so that we can learn to cast down what's the devil. Say, devil, I'm not going to listen to you. I have a source of truth, and I'm going by what God has said. Oh, I'll tell you what, we need God, don't we? But David found strength in the Lord his God. So David began to not just change his attitude and his outlook, he began to take action. He went to God and he said, God, show us what to do. And the obvious solution he could envision was, we need to go after these people and get our stuff back, and our wives, not to mention our wives, and children and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, get everything back. And so he asked God, should we do this and will we succeed? And God answered him. What if David had just stayed in the condition he was in and never turned to God? Oh, folks, how much we turn away from blessings that could be ours because in our times of distress, we don't turn to Him and say, oh God, you promised wisdom. You promised help. You promised what I need. God, I'm looking to you today. No one's situation is exactly the same, but the principles are underlying it are. And God had a great purpose not to curse, but to bless, to turn this whole thing around. The devil was allowed to engineer something that he intended to be a means of destroying the one that God had anointed to sit on the throne over in Jerusalem. Can you see that? Can you see the hand of Satan in this thing? God allowed it. God allowed Satan to get out there and feel like he was poised for victory. When you think about the cross, it's almost enough to make you feel sorry for the devil. I don't at all. But I mean, think about the devil's poised there around the cross. Man, we're just about to win. This is all going to be ours. We've got the Son of God down in human form where He can be killed. We've got it. Man, we're going to succeed and this world will be ours to do with as we please. And they were just licking their ugly chops at the prospect of what was going to happen. And God engineered the time of their seeming greatest triumph as being their greatest defeat. Some of you were there one time when someone was talking with a demon in a person and pressed them. What is that? We've said this many times, but what is the truth that the one thing that you fear the most? And man, that devil did not want to answer that question. He fought and fought and fought and fought and finally just had no choice. It was the cross and the blood. that was spilled there. That's what's done our kingdom the most damage. He will do everything in his power to obscure the reality of what happened at the cross. But our victory was secured there. Folks, we're going to still have to do some fighting, aren't we? We're going to have to get up on our hind legs and say, devil, I don't care what you do and what you engineer and what you pull. I'm serving God and I'm trusting in him. I don't even have all the answers, but I'm looking to God. The devil hates this church. Well, that's all. It's fine. I don't much like him either. We are in a battle. That's not a joke. We are in battles. Satan is attacking on many fronts. But I'll tell you what. I believe God, just as what God had in mind here, I believe there are things that are beyond our power to imagine that are ahead if we will stay the course and look to God and believe him in the face of these things. Praise God. I don't have the power. I don't have the answers. I don't have the wisdom. Don't look to me. Look to Jesus. He is the head to whom we look and we honor. David found strength in the Lord his God. Anyway, so the answer came back, go after them. So they took the 600 men. They came to the, calls here the Bezor ravine. It was a very difficult place to get through, where some stayed behind, for 200 men were too exhausted to cross the ravine. But David and 400 men continued the pursuit. Well, the Lord had something else arranged, didn't they? So they found an Egyptian in a field and brought him to David. They gave him water to drink and food to eat, part of a cake of pressed figs and 2 cakes of raisins. He ate and was revived, for he had not eaten any food or drunk any water for 3 days and 3 nights. David asked him, to whom do you belong and where do you come from? He said, I am an Egyptian, the slave of an Amalekite. My master abandoned me when I became ill 3 days ago. Now, let's think about this. Is sickness ever good? Well, in this case, it was. It caused the Amalekite to lay some of the seeds of their own destruction, didn't they? He turned his slave loose. He says, useless to me. He's sick. He's going to die. He can't keep up. Just leave him there in the desert. So he's laying there 3 days. But God had a purpose in that happening, because he knew what had happened at Ziklag. He'd been there. He knew where the raiding parties were. And so he was actually used of God to lead them to the party. And I'm sure they were probably, it says they were. It said, led David down. And there they were, scattered over the countryside, eating and drinking and reveling because of the great amount of plunder. Oh, how many times in history have you seen a victorious army have a party, get drunk, and the whole battle get reversed because of their revelry? God had this timed perfectly. David fought them from dusk until the evening of the next day. Joel brought this out the other night. This was not a short battle. He didn't just go in and, okay, it's over now. This was a protracted battle. But God had promised them victory, and they stood there and they fought that battle. And it says, and none of them got away except 400 young men. They rode off on camels and fled. David recovered everything the Amalekites had taken, including his 2 wives. I won't make a comment about that. No, nothing was missing, young or old, boy or girl, plunder or anything else they had taken. David brought everything back. Everything back.